Get started. We just finished another call here at the office and we were having some good conversation about it. We're going to jump into reports. Every week I'm going to start posting on Friday or Sunday on our Facebook group about any questions you guys have in relation to stats. I want you guys to get as much as you can out of this. So I want you, if you have specific questions going into buyer's appointments the next week or listing appointments, feel free to message me on that thread and let me know what kind of questions you guys have. I'm just going to cast so you guys can see the screen now.
Nat, just to
okay.
Is it okay for the video recordings to be uploaded in YouTube publicly?
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you.
And then if you guys have questions, please put them in the chat section or write out to me. I'll go over just kind of a little bit of a couple market highlights. Again, every week it's going to be slightly different. We can dive into a specific city, a specific price point or trend. But market highlights overall, Ajax and Whitby both had the strongest week year to date in terms of number of sales. All cities except for Clarington are on par with last year's sales. So the number of sales that we're seeing is the same. The only difference when we start looking at our inventory turnover right here, inventory turnover, if we compare this year to last year, is going to be significantly down because our inventory levels are up. So if we look at inventory, Whitby has 50% more inventory this year than last year did. Oshawa is up 66%. Clarington is up on 30%. Port Hope is right on par, and Cobourg is actually slightly down. So are you guys familiar with this report? Do you want to go over a little bit about how it works? So that you're not going to see it on here, but if you come to the calls every week, I will have last year's report and I will give it out to everyone so that you can compare this year to last year. I'll go over the reports a little bit. So on our left-hand side here, you are going to have your breakdown of your sale prices, right? So this is the number of homes in Whitby last week that sold. So between 650 to 700,000, you had 2 homes sell. Again, if you start going up to 9 to 950, you'll see that we had 5 home sales. On the right-hand side, this just represents the total percentage of that bracket. So if you're trying to narrow it down, look a little bit more detailed, say, okay, what percentage of the homes between 850 and $1 million are selling? You can start adding it up just to give you a little bit more math, right? Does that make sense to everyone? Online, does that make sense? Yep. I don't. So for online, the question was, are we analyzing data day to day, week to week, or month to month? I typically look week to week and month to month. I think if you start looking daily, you're looking at too much information and it changes too readily. So you're trying, for me, I'm trying to look at trends and what's happening in specific categories, or how's this going to affect my buyers or my sellers going forward. And we can talk about that in a bit here too. Your middle section here, this is broken down. So you have what happened last week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and 4 weeks ago. And it's kind of a little summation of what happened. So as of today, in Whitby, there are 385 listings on the market. In the last 7 days, we had 92 new homes hit the market. 36 homes went conditionally sold. 34 homes sold firm, which turns to 8.83% market turnover. That percentage is how much of the inventory left, right? So 8.83% of the market inventory actually left and is no longer there. And that's where when that percentage starts getting higher. So when I was talking about turnover rate, last year, if we were looking at Whitby, we're close to that 16, 17, 18%. So 20% of the inventory was leaving. If we start comparing that back to, say, the high peak seasons, whether it was 2017, COVID, influx, we were 60, 80, 90% inventory turnover. So everything that came on the market left. When this starts going down, it starts transitioning from the seller's market into a buyer's market. You can see over the last 4 weeks ago, we had 324 homes in Whitby. We went up to 350, 363, 385. Now your sales have remained pretty much the same. 31, 27, 22 again, that was Easter weekend, but now you're up to 34 firm sales. So again, your inventory is increasing, the number of homes hitting the market is going up, but your sales are staying flat. So you're naturally going to see less inventory turnover, and that means your sellers have a bit more opportunity. It's a bit more, sorry, your buyers have a bit more opportunity. It's a bit more of a buyer's market. Okay, your right-hand side here, I made one little change. So you're going to notice at the top right corner here, it looks a little bit differently. This came off of Lindsay's feedback at stakeholders. So what I used to do is how many sales there were for that past week, how many went at or over list price, and then you got a percentage. It's kind of a little confusing because a lot could just get full price or a lot could actually go over. So that's where you're now going to see 3 sold at list price, 11 sold over list price. So 35% of the homes that sold last week went over price. Again, if you're holding off on multiple offers, this is where I traditionally use this. If I see that inventory is starting to build and I want to get my seller that competitive advantage, maybe we are going to try to list low, hold off, get multiples. Or I could look at this and say, hey, no one's going to over ask. The idea of doing a price low strategy, hold off, get multiples, it may not work because no one's going over. Yeah, so for online, the question Danielle was asking, it's a total of 14. It is a total of 14, but this percentage here now, the 35, only represents how many went over. That's just 3 went at, 11 went over list. So it's 35% of your inventory sold above what was the list price. So this was the estimation of the total. So 22 sales, there's 13 that were over and at ask, which represented 59. So right now, we don't really want to compare the percentage from the new way to what happened before because it doesn't really represent it. If you want to get that number, just add the 2 up together. So 3 plus 11, 14 divided by your 34. Okay. Online, any questions so far? Yep. So this report, I'm going to scroll down. So the question was, what areas are we doing it? It will start with Pickering and it goes from the west to the east. So Pickering, you have Ajax, Whitby, which we were just covering, Oshawa, Clarington is on there, Port Hope, and then Coburg. I don't separate Bowmanville Curtis. So the way that it pulls up, so all this information, guys, it comes from notice pages. So when you're on Realm, if you click on the 9 dots in the top left corner, all of that information, if you click on notice pages, you select your information there. The hard thing is when you break Clarington, it's a little bit like Port Hope and Coburg. You don't get a large pool. So it starts going up and down and it looks too... Yeah. So we were just talking for online. We were just talking about how the boundaries sometimes in Clarington area overlap. They're a little misconstrued. Some agents just list it completely wrong as well. But when we're looking at this, does anyone have a particular question that they want for a particular town or city right now that they're looking into for a buyer or seller?
Yes, Scarborough.
Oh, so Scarborough we don't do, unfortunately. Pickering to Coburg. is all that I track for this report, unfortunately. But for Scarborough, you can go to notice pages again. If you go notice pages, then you'll just put your neighborhood information that you want, and you can see what happened last week as well.
Awesome.
So Boneville semis we don't have, but this does represent all home types. So it represents your semis, your detached, your links, 2 stories bungalows, everything. Oh, sorry, no, just freehold. Sorry, not condos, just freeholds. Yeah. So when I'm looking at this, a couple of things that I use it for. The left-hand side, I am looking at this for pricing. So if I have a client that's on the edge, say they're between $850,000 and $900,000, I'm going to start taking a look and say, okay, well, the nice thing is we do have good market sales here. 7 of the 26 homes that sold in Clarington sold between that 850 and 8 and 9 range. If I'm at one side of it, say I'm slightly higher than 900,000, but I think market value is pushing a bit, I may actually want to list a little bit lower. So again, if you see all your activities happening below, my client's really wanting that 925, market value is really 910, I'm going to have that conversation with them and say, okay, just so that you're aware, your expectations are a little bit higher than what market value is. What homes are selling is all below us. We can try your way, but just be mindful that we may not have the buyers coming out to Clarington right now. It may be a different story if we were in Oshawa or Whitby. Again, buyers from Toronto sometimes say, I only want to go half an hour outside of the city, so I'm not going to go to Clarington. So I may have to list a little bit lower. Your bottom left-hand side here, this is your termination and price changes. So again, keeping an eye on that. If this number is going up, why is it going up? Are they holding off on offers and then terminating and relisting? Or are they terminating and just lowering the price? So sometimes it could be strategy. Sometimes it can actually be a price reduction and we're behind the 8 ball. So take a look at that. And then your right-hand side, you're just looking for the trend. So again, is inventory over the past 4 weeks? Is it going up week over week? Is it going down week over week? For me, working in Northumberland, I'll have some clients that are bungalow sellers. I don't want to put them up until I know that Durham has actually had strong sales. We're a reactionary market. So if Durham's not doing well, I'm going to tell my clients, let's hold off and let's wait a couple weeks longer. Because again, once those sales accumulate, we know that they'll start coming out to Northumberland. If you are looking at this, the good thing is seeing turnover. Turnover is a big indicator. So if your turnover is going down, you're going into a buyer's market. If turnover is starting to go up, you transition into a bit more of a seller's market and prices will naturally increase. We're flat, I'd say. I'd say it's a little bit difficult. There's a lot of inventory out there, which I think we could view that as a negative thing and say, okay, there's a lot of inventory, we're not turning it over. But at the same point, we're double the amount of inventory as last year. So more, in my opinion, more people have faith that they will buy and sell this year than they will last year. People want to sell, it just hasn't happened yet. Hopefully with things maybe leveling out and let's getting through this election and Cheeto quieting down hopefully a bit down south of us, people can expect to transact in the same market. I think when tariffs are on, tariffs are off, it scares people and say, can I buy and sell in the same market? And we haven't had that predictability. And that's where at the start of the year in January, all these numbers were really positive. And then they kind of slowed down, but inventory hit the market. So inventory is good. What I'm watching right now is week over week, I'll pull up 2 of these reports and see where are the homes actually selling. So I'll pull up 2 Whitbys or 3 Whitbys for the past 3 weeks and see, are they here this week and then next week they're here and then they're trending upwards, or are we actually building in price? And this is the interesting. So Jen's thing was talking about multiple offers. There are lots of homes that are selling over, and then we have some that are sitting. I think with anything, stats can prove whatever you want. This is to give you kind of a little bit of an indicator of what could potentially happen, but then we have to go further down into actually discovering and looking into it. So when we look at Whitby, for example, I'm going to go up to Whitby. Okay. So we'll see that this week there were 4 homes that sold just over $1 million and 4 that sold just under $1.1 million. Sounds positive. The thing is, we don't know what those look like. So what I typically do on average is if I have a buyer or a seller that is at a certain price point and they're coming up for sale or they're looking to buy in the next couple of weeks, I will always look after I've done my reports. I'll go to Whitby and say, okay, what does a $1 million home look like in Whitby this week? What does it look like next week? And what does it look like next month? Because then I can see, are the features changing? Because again, it looks good. Numbers may be positive, but you could have luxury homes that were 1.5 now selling for 1.35 in Whitby, right? So what neighborhoods are you getting into? What neighborhoods are you being excluded from? Yeah. I'm looking at doing that for us. So what I want to do now is take this report and have it all on one spreadsheet on like for when I calculate the numbers, and then it will automatically filter into a monthly, and then I'll have like a 4-week period or a 5-month week, and it'll tell us how many sales, what price points. Again, it will essentially just be all of this and then one of these. So how many homes are we at now? How many homes were listed over the past month? How many sold? How many went from sales? You do get a little bit of that on so not later on this week, I will be doing the monthly reports. I'll send them out via email as well, and then they'll go out. This will come out at 1 p.m. So every Monday at 1 p.m., this will be emailed out to you. Check your junk mail folders. Sometimes it ends up in my junk, but I know last week people got theirs. Anyone online have a... No, I pull this every Monday at 9 o'clock. I pull it, put the information in, and then start moving all the information down a week, and then update the week. Yep. And so it's branded. It has our disclaimer on the bottom of it. So once you get it, you can use it, you can share it, you can talk about whatever you want on it. Mm-hmm. So yep. Yeah. And again, it comes down to, I would ask them, take it to the next level, right? When someone asks you what's going in the market, put the question back on them and say, okay, well, what are you curious about? Are you curious about selling? Or are you curious about buying? Because again, they're two completely different things. Are you thinking about investing? Are you thinking about downsizing and changing what happens in the next 5 to 10 years? Yeah, and so I use this every week. So this is part of my client feedback. So every Monday morning, I do this, we'll do the call, but in between those, I take this, I'm gonna go to Port Hope, for example. So I save the Port Hope one, I attach it, along with, I'll say, okay, there's 2 homes that sold. I'll pull the 2 homes that sold, like the MLS listing for them, attach it, and then I have a client feedback tracker that I send every week. So it just comes as one little bundle and it goes out to my clients. So they can see how many showings we had online, how many viewings we had, what the feedback was, what's happening in the market, what homes that sold. So again, then it's not me trying to say to them, oh, I feel like we need to do a price drop. They're seeing if we need to do a price drop. They're seeing what the activity is at. Any questions online, guys, before we wrap up? Any questions in here?
Nat,
It'll
can
come
you
from KW Communication.
can you explain a little bit about what is a turnover?
Yep. So I think you're asking this part here, what's selling at price or overprice? Is that correct?
No, the turnover.
Oh,
Turnover.
turnover. Yep. So turnover. So turnover is just the number of sales. So for example, Port Hope had 2 and it was divided by the number of listings. So it's the number of homes that are exiting the market and then represented as a percentage. So for example, if you had 100 homes in Oshawa, 50 sold in the past week, your turnover would be 50%.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So ideally at this point, now I was just looking at last year's information. And at this point, we now headed up for the next 4 weeks. We didn't go crazy, but the last week of April to the last week of May, every single week we did traditionally go up in sales. So ideally that is hopefully coming our way. The good news, guys, is again, it goes back to inventory. Like if we're looking at these places, inventory has gone up week over week over week. So it is showing that people do want to move. So the intention is there. Now we just may have to get the price in alignment. I think there's a lot of homes, to Jen's point earlier, there are a lot of homes that are selling at multiple offers and at prices. Like when I was doing Whippy, I think 4 of the homes that sold overpriced were the 4 most expensive. Yep. So again, if you are a good home in a good neighborhood, guys, we feel so bad for Jen. She's in multiple offers and luxury properties. Poor Jen. Can someone help her? Right? But again, Jen, start using this, Jen, when you're looking at it. But Jen, you can start looking at this and saying, okay, so like, where are the homes selling? Yeah. But you can start saying to your clients, like, hey, look, you know what? Last week there were 3 that sold at list price and 10 that went over. 2 weeks ago, it was only 1 and 5. Now I've already seen that we're having 5 homes sell overpriced this week. So again, if we're offering next week, do we want to add that extra $5,000 to $10,000 if we can do it? Or is that home just out of our budget? Again, it's just bringing up the kind of questions and facts to them. Yeah, sure. Yeah, so Oshawa again, Oshawa's really high in inventory. Yeah, Oshawa's up 66% in inventory this year versus last year. We're kind of staying flat here for the most part. Like that's not changing too much. Again, for this, when I'm looking at terminated and price changes, I add them essentially together week to week and compare to see if it's going up or down. Some people have a strategy of canceling and relisting. Some people will just do a price change. Those people are silly in my opinion, but they don't all know. Yeah. Yeah, so you can look online. If you go under list track, LISTRAC, it will show you online if you have a listing. You can look to see where your listing is being viewed. So if you have, say, a North Oshawa listing, you can see if people in Toronto are looking at it, are people in Whitby looking at it, are people in Oshawa south of where that house is looking at it. You can do that. List track. Again, if you click on the little 9 like keypad, it will show you. The other thing to do when you go into notice pages, you can, when you pull up the information, I typically take a look to see where the brokerages are coming from. Are they local brokerages? Are they Durham brokerages? Are they? No, I've seen a lot of like GTA west of us. Again, it also depends on each neighborhood. So again, I'm not looking at it consistently too much right now for Durham. I don't have too many buyers wanting to buy in Durham right now. They're all waiting to sell here. So yeah. Awesome, guys. So we'll be online next Monday. I think the third week is always going to be maybe in person because we have the mastermind ahead of it. So I think this one will always be live. Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys. If you have any questions, put it in the Facebook chat group there too.